about what Human Rights Day in South Africa actually means. Come on, y'all. We're gonna go inside because the wind is winding and the baboons may be out. So we're gonna talk about this from the safety of indoors. But I want to share this with you guys. I was here last year during the Human Rights Day. I did not participate in any festivities. However, today I plan to participate. So anyway, back to the business. If you guys haven't subscribed, like travel information, I've been posting more shorts, but getting back to doing some more lives. If you're interested in travel journey, starting your own travel journey with all the stuff that's going on around the world, please, if you so see fit, subscribe to my channel and make sure you click that notification bell so you know when I go live and share what's happening in my life. So right now I'm in Cape Town, and again, like I said, I get to experience their Human Rights Day. And I'm going to read it to you guys because I can't memorize all this stuff, but I want to share why it's so important. Because I think one of the things that we're seeing globally is kind of the beginning of revolutionary mindsets where people are literally coming to their senses, so to speak, and saying, maybe this isn't right. Maybe the Burkina Faso's Ibrahim Traore, I know I said his name wrong, and others who are fighting against centuries of heinous treatment and trying to decolonize mentally and physically, maybe he's got something there. Maybe that's important. And this falls in line with that. It's kind of like, in the US, civil rights. We don't really have a civil rights day. We kind of encompass that into MLK Day, which actually should be changed. It should be, a separate celebration, especially considering they're trying to cancel it. So anyway, you guys, I want to share with you guys because I think when we go to places, especially if we're planning on staying long term, at least this is from my perspective, I like to understand the people, the culture, how people move around, and then perceptually how my presence either impacts them positively or negatively, and or what I can do to be more of a foundation and not a positive foundation and not just a leech on the system. So let's talk about it. What is Human Rights Day in South Africa? It's observed this year on today, March 21st, Saturday, and it commemorates the 1960 Sharpeville massacre while making 30 years since the adoption of the Constitution. So what's the significance? It's emphasizing justice, equality, and constitutional rights. Who were the people that were impacted? The Aboriginal or indigenous South Africans before colonization, right? These are things that are important to know. And I know a lot of people, why do we have to bring up the past? This is like literally right now. They say apartheid ended, but did it really? Same as Jim Crow. I'm going to make some correlations back to the US because one, everybody thinks that race relations and heinous treatment of people only happen in the US and we carry this everywhere we go. It's not true. It happened all over the world. And it's still happening today. If you're one of those people that's saying that that's in the past, then you might need to listen to this quietly or excuse yourself. But I'm going to talk about it. So what is the significance? This year highlights the 30th anniversary of the Constitution, the South African government, so on and so forth. So their Bill of Rights at 30, making human dignity real. Check that out. The day, so part of what is highlighted is the Human Rights Day program. It usually includes a wreath laying ceremony, keynote address, different things like that, as well as celebratory things, which there's like a carnival style event, race, and all of that kind of stuff. You know, festivities. They build things around these types of events, partly, I think, to bring people together, to bring awareness, because when you bring people together, even though they might not be, invested or interested in what's happening, you arbitrarily create awareness, right? Oh, I want to go have fun, I want to be entertained. But in that, you're creating awareness because maybe that person showcases it, does a live stream, puts it on Instagram, and then somebody's like, what is that? This is Carnival season. So a lot of people are going to just associate it with Carnival, when in essence it is about the freedom of expression, the freedom of life, the things that we all want. And this, to me, it interlinks us in so many ways, because we think we're so different. We think that it's such a far stretch from this person to this person, from this country to that country, and it really isn't. We're really all human, trying to live a human experience. And many of us are still not categorized or viewed as human instantly. And not just here. So the purpose of the day is to reflect the legacy of the Sharpeville massacre, where 69 people were killed, to promote ongoing commitment to human rights. So I'm going to read a little bit more because I think it's important to kind of dig into what actually happened in the past. So I'm gonna I'm going to talk about the Sharpeville massacre. And this is information I'm just pulling from the internet, from different sources. There's multiple sources that share what happened on that day. So I'm going to read a couple different things. And there's different videos, so you guys can go and look up this stuff on your own as well. All right, so put my glasses on, y'all. If you have any commentary, positive commentary, or knowledge about any of these things, please let me know. I am simply sharing as a expat type person living around the globe. I'm sharing cultural experience and exchange and learning, right? So I'm just going to read this. This was this happened March 21st in 1960, an incident in the Black township of Sharpeville. So first of all, it's Black. And we have to say that, which is important. A lot of people are like, well, it's South Africa. But do understand that 7 to 10% of South Africa is white, European, and the other 90 to 93% is Black. But that 7% own almost 85%, if not more, of the land, as well as the power in this country since colonization. Hey, everybody. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. So this was an incident in Sharpeville where police fired on a crowd of Black people, killing or wounding over 250 people, and apparently 69 people were pronounced dead as a result of this. It was one of the first and most violent demonstrations against apartheid in South Africa. So the PAC, which is the Pan-Africanist Congress, part of the African National Congress, created in 1959, organized a countrywide demonstration for the abolition of South Africa's pass laws. Participants were instructed to surrender their reference books, their passes, and invite arrests. So a pass law, let's go to what a pass law is, because guys, Like all of this stuff, if you go to the Apartheid Museum in Joburg, you'll see some of what's happening, what I'm talking about when you go to that museum, because they enact it as if you were back in apartheid. And whew, it's tough. It's tough just to walk through there. I was there for 3.5 hours and still did not get to see everything, because it was very important for me to actually, really experience all the information, right? You can do tours that are much less than that and they kind of pinpoint what they want, but I strongly encourage, if you really want to know, to go in and read and feel it for yourself. So what were past laws in South Africa is a law that required non-whites in South Africa to carry documents authorizing their presence in restricted areas. Past laws, so it is what it sounds like, were among the main instruments of apartheid until the government ended the requirement to carry this documentation in, guess what year? 1986. That's why when documentaries or history or pictures or whatever are shown and they show this stuff in black and white, it is so disingenuous, because this stuff literally just happened 20, 40, 60 years ago during my age demographic. All right, you guys. The pass law system arose out of a series of regulations, beginning with those enacted by the Dutch East Indian Company, Europe and Asia. That restricted the settlement and movement of non-whites in Southern Africa. So South Africa, indigenous black people were restricted from moving around. By whom? Europeans and Asians. Many Africans were forced or expelled from Cape Colony, especially as British settlers acquired more land in the 19th century. I can go on and so on and so forth, but I think you guys get the gist. This is very, very similar to every overtaking anywhere where it was done maliciously and in terms of greed and for disenfranchisement and abolishment of the native people who resided there. Okay, so the practice of racial segregation by law was further codified in South Africa in the 20th century, particularly after the National Party gained office in 1948. So what they're talking about is very similar to what we experience in, like, when we talk about Jim Crow era. So, oh yeah, slavery ended, but the Jim Crow era was the same as the apartheid. So this happened collectively all around the world, and they collectively decided to do these things, right? To create these hardships, to demonize a whole group of people simply based on how they looked. And what's happening today is we are responding to it. So when people say, why do you need to talk about it? Why are you inciting race? No. Do not go to the person who is calling it out and responding to it. Go to the person who initiated and created it. Okay? Until you do that, you can't say anything to me. You could say something, but I might not respond. Okay, so I'm not gonna go and read all of that, but ultimately that was a pass law. It's kind of like the Green Book in the United States, where we were only black people of hues like myself and darker, are only allowed to be on the streets until the street lights came on. That whole thing about our parents, we got to come in by the street light, that was a systemic thing that happened to black people, and not allowing us free movement anywhere, in any space, right? And then the Green Book was created to tell us where we could and could not go. Sounds similar, does it not? Okay, so I'm gonna go back really quick. So the anniversary of said massacre is today. So what people are celebrating is the ending of the massacre, the ending of apartheid, and kind of the start and the renewal of, or consideration that all people should be treated like human beings. So I am going to pull up like what the core message is. So citizens are encouraged to know their rights, report abuse, and protect the rights enshrined in the Bill of Rights, which is part of the Parliament of South Africa. So this day is not the same as the International Human Rights Day, which is in December. So this is specific to South Africa. This is specific to South Africa. Nina Lunza, do you understand? This is not for you to say, oh, well, I had to do the same, so it couldn't have been bad. There's a reason why we were not allowed out. It had nothing to do with, oh, it's getting dark. It's simply because there was control over groups of people. You do understand that, correct? So one of the things they talk about is, because this is an annual thing, and there's going to be celebratory events all over Cape Town today. There's so many things that you can do to celebrate, to commemorate, to honor the people who still fight today. Because as a person who stays here a little bit longer term, I don't just come for a 4 or 5 day vacation. I stay for months. So I get to experience and talk to Black South African people who were and still are disenfranchised, and are trying to figure out, very similarly to Black people globally, but specifically even in the United States, how to rise up from that and not be categorized negatively because they want to rise up from that. Like, there's this whole thing about people who are treated poorly wanting to fight back. Like, there's all of these different groups and names that they come up with. Okay, so some of the official celebrations, of course, there's the commemoration part of it, the part that promotes the Constitution. I have not read their Bill of Rights. I'm sure there are some people that are just like, oh, yeah, maybe, maybe not. I don't know, because we say the same thing in the States. There's very many parts that need to be rewritten, which is why we have amendments. And then there's all the community events, arts festivals, education initiatives that they have, community workshops, things that you can do. And I believe this is today and tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. So you can experience it for more than one day. There are things I think that they do for the entire month collectively, and things that you can do, and organizations that you can join and be a part of, even before and after. Because one of the things I want to say is trying to be involved. The wind whipped that right across my face. Trying to be involved in things for more than just, the reason. The day of carrying things long term, carrying things forward, so that it really becomes a movement and not just a gesture, right? So the day is a significant reminder to honor the past and strive for a better future. And people say all the time, well, why do you need to bring it up in order to move forward? Because what do you know? How do you know how to do things different if you never actually address the things that happened in the past? And if you never address the things that happened in the past, isn't it almost saying to the people that were impacted negatively that you don't care? It's like saying you don't care. You don't care what happened to them. And I'm very adamant about this because it is something that we experience in the States. And People say, well, were you hung from a tree? Were just the simple fact that you can joke or make light of those traumatic experiences and think that there is not some intertwined epigenetic trauma that is associated and collected and carried forward with that for one group of people, but it is the excuse. Epigenetic trauma is used as the excuse for everything for another group of people when you don't have the ability, mental capacity. I don't know if it's genetic lobotomy or what it is, when you don't have that in you, empathy in you to say, I understand how these things impact people long term. In addition to the fact that there are legal systems in place that allow this stuff to continue. It's just designed as a different name. It's carried forward in a different way. There's so much information out there. There's so many, you don't even have to look and say, well, how do I find this stuff? If you want to know it, if you really want to know the truth and you want to govern yourself differently, then you will seek that information, right? And I find that when people are like, well, can you explain it to me? You don't want to know. You don't want to know. So, I am really big on, if you wanted to know, you would do the research, right? You wouldn't make light of, and you would not invalidate someone else's experience or their response to the things that have happened. And the reason being is because they haven't stopped. So I say to people all the time, a lot of times what is carried is the fear that was instilled on purpose so that it would be carried on and on. And if you don't have time to read, there's like this 21 page pamphlet book called the Willie Lynch Notes. And that's something for the United States, but you can actually use that and transpose that to any country or area where they are still being inflicted in the same mental space or systemic space that we're talking about when we talk about human rights, as it is applied to living through apartheid, living through Jim Crow, living through what's happening in across the globe today, right? So I think it's our responsibility to be educated about it. If you are someone who is not impacted at all, feelings and or livelihood, you might be a person that needs to look it up. You're the exact person that we are talking about when someone says something impacts them and you say it's not that big of a deal. If you are a person that literally is like, with all that's happening right now, and you think you're totally unaffected by it at all. Maybe you've got money and you know it doesn't matter to you because you're not seeing a huge, change, and even though stocks have dropped tremendously, maybe it doesn't affect you, your bottom line. Maybe when you go to the store and you're spending, $5 for gas, oh, it's gonna pass because this happens all the time, and you've got the extra $2.50 to put on one tank, 1 gallon of gas. Maybe you're that person or you're like, well, I don't have anyone in my family that I have to worry about. Or maybe you're the person who sits in a group of people, your colleagues, your family members, and you have that person who vehemently speaks negatively about other people in this way, but you never correct them. You never say anything because you're like, oh, that's just Bob. Oh, that's old Ann. She doesn't know any better. But when you don't say anything, this is how these things carry forward, right? If you're a person who literally can walk through life and nothing pulls at your heart when you see people being treated improperly still, you're the person who needs to do the research. You're the person who needs to do the research. Okay? So I am hoping to get out and explore and see a little bit more about what the day brings in terms of the celebration, meet and chat with people. I may go live later. There's a parade this evening, so I may do something in that respect. If not, I will probably compose and edit some shorts to put on here so you guys can kind of see what it is. But just remember, human rights that everyone should know. They're universal and inalienable. They're equal and indivisible and interdependent. Universal Declaration of Human Rights was a global turning point. States have obligations and individuals should have support. These are things about specific to human rights. So when we talk about human rights, and one more. And today, the call is that the Human Rights Day is a call and a platform for action. So it's not just about celebrating and forgetting, it's about changing the systems that still require us to have these conversations. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful for you guys. I hope this sparks some need to have discussions about it, because it's happening everywhere. It's not just a race war, it's gender, it's nationalities, it's religion based, it's everything. But for us right now, what we're talking about is the fact that it is still geared against the original people that were here. And while everyone should work to achieve and acquire, shouldn't the people who achieved and acquired it previously be granted the same awarding or support from the government that allowed other people to come in and take those things from them? Just talking about balance. Just talking about a little bit of balance, y'all. There's enough for everybody. There really is. Everywhere, there's enough for everybody. All right? Anyway, let me know your positive thoughts, collective thoughts. No crazy stuff. You will be blocked. But let me know what you think, you guys. This is a national movement. So take Human Rights Day today here in South Africa as a day to spread it and pay it forward around the globe. All right, y'all, I'm gonna get out of here. If you enjoy my content, please click the subscribe button. Let me know you're here, and I will chat with y'all later. All right, toodles and noodles, peace and hair grease.